In 1957, Chrysler built the most perfect American sedan ever made. It won races, and it had the right engine, the right stance, the right everything. Then they changed it. Not because it failed, but because Detroit got scared. Detroit in the mid-1950s was locked in a battle for power and prestige, and Chrysler was losing ground. General Motors and Ford dominated the sales charts, each producing over 1 million cars a year, while Chrysler trailed far behind in both numbers and reputation. The market was hungry for speed and spectacle. Horsepower figures became advertising weapons. GM boasted about its TurboFire V8, Ford pushed its Y-Block, and every showroom was a stage for escalating claims. In 1956, Chevrolet's Bel Air and Ford's Fairlane were outselling Chrysler's entire lineup by wide margins. Industry rankings cast Chrysler as a distant third, its image stuck somewhere between old luxury and missed opportunity. This was not just about numbers, it was about identity. The American car had become a symbol of post-war ambition, and buyers expected their machines to look and feel like the future. Every magazine cover and billboard promised more power, more style, more status. Chrysler's own ads tried to keep up, but their products lagged behind the chrome-laden, tail-fin-heavy visions rolling out of GM's design studios. The pressure was relentless. Internally, executives saw the gap widening. Sales reports from 1954 through 1956 showed Chrysler's share shrinking as buyers flocked to flashier, faster rivals. In this climate, doing nothing meant fading into irrelevance. The stakes were clear. Chrysler needed a breakthrough, something that could challenge the dominance of GM and Ford, not just in numbers, but in spirit. The company's future depended on finding a way to stand out in a marketplace obsessed with horsepower and style. That challenge set the stage for a radical new approach, a bold, unified vision that would redefine what a Chrysler could be. The 1957 Chrysler 300C was not just another entry in the horsepower wars. It was the car where Chrysler's ambition finally took physical form. This was the third chapter in the exclusive letter series, a line reserved for the company's most advanced performance luxury machines. At its heart, the 300C carried a 392 cubic inch HEMI V8, a power plant that delivered 375 horsepower and 420 pound-feet of torque. Those numbers put it at the very top of American production sedans that year. But the car's reputation was not built on brute force alone. Virgil Exner's forward-look design language came alive in the 300C. The roofline dropped to just 53.2 inches, giving the car a low, purposeful profile. The track measured 71 inches, lending a planted stance that suggested speed even at rest. The proportions were deliberate. A long hood stretching nearly 4 feet, a short rear deck, and minimal overhangs at both ends. Exner's own sketches, preserved in factory archives, show his relentless pursuit of visual balance, stripping away chrome and ornament in favor of clean, uninterrupted surfaces. The front grille flowed seamlessly into the hood, and the body's two-tone paint highlighted every curve without distraction. Inside, the 300C was no less focused. Every detail, from the dashboard layout to the seating position, was engineered for high-speed stability and comfort. Factory production ledgers confirm just 4,624 units left the assembly line in 1957, making this a rare breed by any standard. The 300C's dimensions and mechanicals were not just numbers on a spec sheet. They were the result of a company staking its future on a single, perfectly proportioned machine. In that 1 year, Chrysler seemed to have found the formula for the ideal American sedan: power, poise, and a kind of restrained elegance that would prove impossible to repeat. On the racetrack, the Chrysler 300C became something more than a showroom promise. In 1957, the car entered 23 NASCAR Grand National events and left with 13 victories, a strike rate that sent a clear message to Detroit and every fan in the bleachers. The Southern 500 at Darlington, one of the season's crown jewels, saw the 300C cross the finish line ahead of all comers, driven by Fireball Roberts, whose name became inseparable from Chrysler's newfound reputation for speed. Curtis Turner, another legend behind the wheel, pushed the 300C to victory at Daytona Beach, where the car's wide track and low center of gravity let it hold the line through corners while rivals slid wide or faded on the straights. Official timing sheets from the National Motorsports Archive tell the story in cold numbers. The 300C averaged nearly 2 seconds faster per lap than the 1957 Chevrolet Bel Air, despite weighing more. Pit crews marveled at how rarely the Chrysler needed to stop for fuel. The 392 HEMI, with its deep torque curve and dry sump oiling, ran hard from green flag to checkered without complaint. In a season dominated by factory-backed teams, the 300C was the car to beat, and most weeks nobody could. Dealers saw the impact immediately. Salesmen pointed to race results in the morning paper, and buyers, hungry for a piece of that glory, lined up for a car that could claim both luxury and the hard evidence of victory. For Chrysler, 1957 was the year when engineering and ambition finally translated to dominance, not just on paper, but where it mattered most, the finish line. Pressure from outside the company arrived with a force that even Chrysler's best engineering could not deflect. In early 1957, a Department of Commerce task force released a report warning that big displacement V8s, like the 392 HEMI powering the 300C, posed new risks on public roads. The language was blunt. The report argued cars built for speed were potentially hazardous to the untrained driver, and demanded stricter oversight. Newspapers ran with the story, and editorials began to frame high-horsepower sedans as a public menace. The Advertising Research Council's market surveys registered a 12% jump in consumer anxiety about fast cars between June and September. Headlines labeled the 300C a runaway Frankenstein, feeding a sense of unease that spread from living rooms to dealer showrooms. On May 23, 1957, the Automobile Manufacturers Association called a halt. In a press release, the AMA announced a sweeping ban on factory-backed racing, declaring that the safety of the traveling public must take precedence over the spectacle of speed. The decision passed by a narrow vote, but its effect was immediate. Chrysler, along with every other major automaker, pulled out of professional competition. The ban did not just end a marketing campaign, it erased the main channel Chrysler used to prove its engineering. Overnight, the 300C lost its biggest stage. Internal memos warned of legal risk and reputational fallout if the company kept pushing performance in its ads. Racing trophies, once a source of pride, became liabilities in a world suddenly wary of speed. For a car built to win, the rules had changed mid-race, and the finish line moved out of reach. Inside Chrysler's executive suite, the mood in early 1958 was tense and divided. The boardroom filled with thick folders, market surveys, legal opinions, and a transcript of the latest dealer feedback. At the center of the table, a new set of blueprints gleamed with heavier chrome, taller fins, and elaborate grille designs. The question wasn't just about style. It was about survival under a new set of rules. On February 12, 1958, the board convened for a decisive vote. The transcript from that meeting captures the moment. Vice President J.M. Rister argued, "Our engineering breakthroughs are wasted if we cannot race." Chief Marketing Officer L.A. Lepper countered, "Our customers now ask for safety, not speed." The final resolution, signed by Fisher, Lepper, Rister, and Exner, authorized the shift. Performance would take a back seat. To ornament and perceived security, the advertising department received immediate instructions. All references to racing trophies and horsepower supremacy were to be stripped from new brochures. Revised ad copy emphasized luxury comfort and premium craftsmanship, leaving the racing legacy of the 300C in the shadows. That boardroom decision locked Chrysler onto a new course, one that would soon be tested by the market's response. Scarcity has a way of turning a machine into a myth. For the 1957 Chrysler 300C, that transformation happened almost overnight. With just 4,624 cars built and no direct successor that matched its balance of power and restraint, the 300C became a collector's grail, a car whose reputation only grew as the years passed and as Detroit's styling arms race left its purity behind. Auction records tell the story in dollars and headlines. In 2018, a triple black 300C, restored to original specification and known among collectors as Midnight Demon, crossed the R.M. Sotheby's block in New York and hammered at $425,000, far surpassing its pre-sale estimate. That figure wasn't just about rarity. It was a recognition of the car's singular place in American automotive history. By 2023, that same 300C stood on display at the Peterson Automotive Museum, no longer just a collector's trophy, but a museum-grade artifact. For enthusiasts and historians, the car's abrupt disappearance after 1 year didn't diminish its legacy. If anything, it amplified the legend. The 300C became the benchmark by which all later American sedans would be judged, a fleeting moment of design and engineering clarity that collectors now chase at any cost. Today, the 1957 Chrysler 300C stands as proof that the perfect blend of power and restraint can be undone by forces far beyond engineering. As regulations and trends shift, true icons become rarer and more valuable. Sometimes, Detroit's finest moments are the ones it leaves behind. Share your thoughts below.